Thank you for joining me today. This is the 11th of August. It's the third day. We have one day to follow. We'll talk about that. That's kind of a summation of carrying what we're going through on into everyday life. But this is what we call the resolution point. It's following coming forth by day. And this is the most essential aspect of moving into the future without karma. To move in the future, creating a new identity. Because the old identity, the old persona mask, will not let go easily. This is one of the major aspects of human existence and one of the major pressure points that those who wish to exert control on others utilize. That when a subject, a social aspect of existence, threatens an identity, morality goes out the window because the mind body construct perceives an identity threat as an existential threat. That's why identity politics have been pushed so hard over the last 10 to 25 years. Really, it's been pushed hard since 2012 and the end of the Mayan calendar, the closing of a great cycle of time. And this cycle of time, the shift in cycle of time precedes moving into the Aquarian age. And there is the possibility, the opportunity of a great shift in the human psyche. Because many cycles of time are coinciding, beginning and ending, or at their center point, at a nodal point on those cycles of time. They're all happening very close together now. So there is this huge energetic wave, we could say, is cresting and moving into a new beginning. And we have this opportunity to catch that wave or not. And we might even think of this very moment, this 4-day window between the alignment, astrological alignment of Sirius, the scorching one that precedes the summer heat waves of August, and the numerological alignment of 4 8s, 4 different 8s, all part of the numerological construct of the 8th of August. These alignments don't happen very often, so the window opened on the 8th, and the window will close, gently close, tomorrow on the 12th of August at approximately 6 in the evening, basically the movement into what we call dusk, the evening, as the sun's beginning to set, according to British summertime. and which is just off of Greenwich Mean Time. So there's this point in London by which all of the world at the present moment tells its time, and opposite it is a date line that we determine the date. Now, these are obviously human constructs, but they do relate to physical aspects of our experience of life and our connection to the field, the many rhythms of the field. What I've been speaking about is coming back into alignment with the rhythm of the earth and coming back to alignment with the rhythm of the stars and coming back into alignment with the rhythm of our body. The rhythm of the earth is always in alignment with the rhythm of the stars, just on a different fractal pixel, we could say. The same thing is happening within the earth that's happening in the stars, and there is an alignment with that. And the planets act as channel buoys or buoys, channel markers, which indicate the currents of time, different rhythms of time that we're experiencing are flowing through. So the cycles of the planets, when they return to a position when we were born, indicate a cycle of time that we're existing within. And these different cycles of time exert different influences on us because they're different frequencies. They resonate with different aspects of our own biology. And the important thing to understand is if you want to change who you've become, which you did not choose, it was foisted upon you and it's not your fault. You were born into a sociological construct based on a geological and chronological positioning. You were born in a place and a time and a society that commands that space. And you, without any consultation, had those things passed on to you as though they were truths. But they're not truths, they're just opinions. They're opinions which create a belief system which is nothing more than bullshit. It worked for a time. And because it worked, it was considered to be true. This is the very nature of science. Science is proposing what looks like a rendering of truth and then refined when that model, that rendering doesn't work. So it's refined and refined and refined and further refined through iterations, reiterations. But that doesn't necessarily mean they are accurate renderings of truth. They're just models that work to purpose. But correlation does not necessarily equal causation. So all science is taking events or circumstances, recognizing patterns of correlation, and from that, assuming causation. Now, I'm not giving bad press to science, not at all. because some of our science has become so accurate that it has dialed down truths that we believe in to a thousandth or a 10,000th of a degree of accuracy, where the theory, the postulation has never been proven wrong. The difficulty is that that's happened on two different levels. And we're only now beginning to understand that the ancients understood things we didn't. When in what's called the dark ages of humanity, when we know nothing or little of what was practiced or believed, it was thought we were running our societies or civilizations on pure superstition. And the greatest superstition was that man was at the center of the universe, because we thought that meant geographically or geometrically and chronologically, not realizing what that science had at least equaled or perhaps surpassed what we know now, or at least the recollections of an ancient science that they still had some kind of access to. Understood that human beings were at the center of orders of magnitude. We are literally our size, somewhere between the average human size and the size of an apple. Somewhere between those two is literally on the center of orders of magnitude. When we look outward into the cosmos, we go in orders of magnitude larger, 10 times, 100 times, 1,000 times, 10,000 times, 100,000 times, 1,000,000 times, 1,000,000,000 times, a quadrillion times. But it's folding out from the size of us, the observer. And on the other side of that threshold, we look inward to 1/10th, 1/100th, 1/1,000th, 1/10,000th, 100,000th, 1,000,000th, 1,000,000,000th, 1/quadrillionth. And we've reached the outer boundaries of observation. Newton, some half a millennia ago, said we're heading into the darkness where numbers will light the way. He was aware then we were reaching the boundaries of what we could observe with the human eye, even assisted with lenses, even assisted with telescopes and microscopes. We were passing that boundary to where mathematical calculations would be required to understand the nature of reality when we were approaching those boundaries. And we've hit a hard wall. And that hard wall is now, when we use electron microscopes, the very frequencies of light, of electromagnetic waves we're using to observe the smallest subatomic particles. Actually, the frequency becomes so high because the wavelengths are so small that the things we're observing are destroyed in the observation, because it's approaching the actual speed of light. And of course, at the speed of light, the thing we're observing becomes energy. Its mass is released. This is the very nature of atomic physics. And there's something similar on the outside. We're observing black holes and observing the the walls of the observable universe. And we're now beginning to understand that, like a black hole, all the energy is absorbed to the inside, while all the information is left on the outside, on the boundaries, on what you could call the surface skin or the walls of the cube or the skin of the sphere. We're trapped within. All light enters a black hole. The energy of the light is literally frozen. It can't escape. But the information at that level is left on the boundary. And the same is true of the smallest subatomic particles, that when the universe was born, we had subatomic particles that existed free outside a proton. We could say that no protons existed. And at the moment of the birth of the universe, somehow these trinity of subatomic particles, gluons, were captured within this new structure, protons, and they never escape. It's something like our own framework. The reason I'm mentioning this, because when you go back throughout history, what the spiritual sciences described as this interaction between the spirit and the soul is virtually identical to how we now recognize the fundamental particles of the universe. When we talk about them, the conversation is mirror image to the conversation of the spiritual sciences. And if we're going to change our identity to become the person who can manifest our dreams, we have to let go of the identity that we've become, because that identity is filled with what? Bullshit. Bullshit limiting beliefs that are part of a bullshit limiting belief system that you signed a contract for. In fact, your parents signed a contract for when they signed your birth certificate. To become part and parcel of a belief system that has no bearing in reality. It's a pale, twisted imitation. We could call the systems that we work within now, the human systems we work within, are a twisted sister to the real body bride. And that twisting existed before social contracts as we know them. Right? We're in the world upside down. So we're in a world where we plant seeds in the ground and they go upwards toward the light. But we're beings that are fallen stars. We're star seeds. And that star is the fruit of spiritual evolution. And we are the star seeds inside that star fruit, upside down in the world. And we're planting our seed consciously now back into the star field from which we came. It's the field of dreams that exists in the star field, in the constellations, which the ancients considered the field of eternity. The galaxy literally means the Milky Way. And the Milky Way is the way to your dreams, to regain, to reclaim your true nature as a immortal, infinite creator. Each one of you are the rainbow human that rests in the heart. You are a full spectrum being, presently trapped in the bloodthirsty black diamond soul. The soul aspect of the human being comes here to experience love and connection while gaining knowledge and transforming that knowledge back into wisdom. We're here cultivating our timeless wisdom so that we know ourselves. We come to become more of ourself, to take the timeless wisdom that's literally encoded in our DNA and test it against what's called the Cantor's dust. It's a quantum field. There is an actual matrix which is visible in altered states of consciousness. It's a grid of fractals of that grid. Each cube, you could call it, has 8 corners to it. And those 8 corners actually are manifest as 8 different cubes. It's 8 cornered cubes inside 8 cornered cubes inside 8 cornered cubes. Now, I won't bore you by trying to describe it. Perhaps we can look at it in an animated version sometime. But if what I'm saying is true, and it is, we are a full spectrum, 8-hued being inside a reality that's a cage that's too small for us to fit within. And largely we're squeezed into that box by the cage of language. Language is a cage that's too small for the animal of the total animal of reality, the total truth to fit within. And so, in order to squeeze ourselves into this earth suit, in order to squeeze ourselves into that earth suit, we have to use a shoehorn. And as I said, that shoehorn is language. Now, the divine process squeezes that reality, that eightfold reality, with a different kind of shoehorn, because that's the ultimate language, the divine language of mathemagics. Mathematics is a magical language that if we begin to harmonize with it. We don't even have to understand it in the human sense. Our body is designed to resonate with it. And in resonating with it, we begin to sing our song, a song that's part of the earth song. And the earth song is part of the solar system song, our sun. Our sun gave birth to the planets around it, something we're only beginning to understand, to remember, because the ancients understood this. The sun gives birth to the planets around it, the way Jupiter and Saturn are still in the process, and we can see it giving birth to moons from inside of themselves. We as human beings do something similar. We give birth to a persona mask. It's a fictition created in order to be able to negotiate human society. And I'm not speaking to denigrate the persona. The persona has allowed human beings to do extraordinary, amazing things. But it
So
also
what
became a limitation.
so what you are doing is actually facilitating the group to come out of the cage, the false belief system that has been created, that we have been in, for us to come out of that so that we can be the true self of ourselves.
Exactly, because there is nothing but the guru.
Yep.
There is only the guru. There is only light. And
Yep.
we are a bit of that. We are a ray of light. We're an amber from that fire that's burning at the center of creation. And exactly, we're facilitating the practice of removing the dark obstacle to the light refracting. Karma is like a sticky blackstrap molasses over acquired over time. It's what connects us. It's on one sense, it's why you and I, all of us here gathered today, are speaking together, because we have strands of this sticky strap black gooey molasses connecting us. And we're afraid if we cut those connections, we'll be alone again. We're all caught in this longing to belong, this urge to merge, longing to belong. And that's why we keep holding on. That's why so many of us don't put our affairs in order, because we have this instinctively imposed influence, but society somehow cultivates this misbelief that if we put our affairs in order, our job will be done and we'll die. That's why so few people write wills. That's why so many legacies go into probate, and the things people acquired over time in order to give to their prodigy end up going back to the state, because we've been too afraid to look at what's going to happen when we go.
And and
And
this group is actually consciously removing all the muck, the falsehood that has been limiting us for us to release ourselves to our true self.
Exactly, and exactly, and what indigenous societies? It seems to me that the truth of this proliferates, proliferate, proliferates through all space and time, at least relating to this planet. But it certainly the evidence is still there in the American indigenous civilizations.
Mm.
They have something there they call a potlatch. It's where we in the at least Anglo American tradition have developed a term potluck, a potluck dinner. So potluck means everybody makes something to bring to a celebration, and they cook it in a pot, and they bring it in the pot they cooked it in, and then they share whatever they cooked. Everybody gets to try a bit of everything else that everybody cooked. If they liked it, they can have more. If they don't, they can have less. But everybody is having a smorgasbord that no single individual or single small group had to slave over or labor over. Everybody does a little bit to the best of their ability and contributes, and then everybody receives to the best of their or to the greatest of their need. Some people eat a little, some people eat a lot. Some people go, oh, I haven't tasted that dish in ages, and they forget what they cook completely. It's the idea of communalism, but not imposed communalism, because imposed communalism means everybody ends up being equal. Yes, equally what? Equally poor, equally impoverished. But this communalism that that at least the Sikh tradition I see foisters is, yeah, we just all to get together, we cook so anybody can come and eat. They don't have to come to the to the religious or spiritual side. And even if they come to the spiritual side, into the in the Devar hall, the singing hall, they can just listen to the music. They don't have to understand a word. They can just appreciate the frequency,
Yeah.
and they can appreciate the frequency of what the energy of the food goes in. So, and I'm not trying to say that Sikhism means that's it any better, but it's what I saw the most refined version of this process of solid or material frequency the body needs to be given, to be fed, so that it can digest and recreate more of itself. And that the music of the Debar Hall, the music of the Shabbat, both the frequency of the music, the tonal frequency, and also the frequency of the words, feed the mind in order for it to digest and recreate itself and its connection to the cosmic mind. Um,
Yeah.
Sanskrit is the language of creation. Almost every spiritual tradition that understands this acknowledges this. The sound of the word for something in Sanskrit is as close as the human voice can make to an octave harmonic of the vibration of that thing. So wood sounds like the word for wood sounds like the wood vibrates itself as its intrinsic being. And the name for different kind of wood further refines that it's wood, like this is the chord, but this is the specific note of that kind of wood. The same thing is true of Sanskrit in the sense of thought, a thought form, what the Buddhists particularly call a thought form, has a shape. It's a frequency that manifests a specific shape because it's manifested from a cage, a structural cage that creates that specific frequency. What the ancients understood is how to reverse engineer that. They understood that if you take a plate, an iron plate, and you spread sand across it, and then you run a bow, like a violin bow, across that plate is tuned to a specific frequency based on the tension of the bow. So if the bow is very tight, it vibrates, causes a faster vibration. Or if you even play a sound near that, it will cause the sand to start to form specific patterns. And as we change the frequency of vibration, the patterns change.
Yes.
They've known this for not decades, not centuries, not millennia, at least tens, if not hundreds of thousands of years. We've been fed this bullshit that modern humans are maybe 20, 50,000 years old. When we know we have evidence of anatomically identical human beings that we can date back to at least 350,000 years minimum. And that doesn't mean that's the beginning. We just know modern humans, which are anatomically virtually identical to us, were around 350,000 years ago. So why would it take 350,000 years to form a civilization when we can identify our history that we're no going back to the beginning of our known history, say 5, maximum 6,000 years ago, the Sumerians were chronically documenting there was a civilization more advanced than ours now, and we're only trying to pass on to reclaim the remnants of the knowledge from that civilization. They stated in the cuneiform texts, and then we restate those in the Hebrew text, in the Torah, and then we restate them again in the Christian New Testament. And then we restate them again in aspects of the Quran. The Sikh gurus recognized that this was a restating of a restating of a restating. How can we get back to remember the truth? How can we get back to the truth? So the Sikh gurus deliberately created a new language, taking from Sanskrit, the language of creation, and from Farsi, a language which is similar to Sanskrit, but it's more, as Greek was, it's more a language of remembering, but how to remember, a structure of how the information can be transmitted across vast periods of time. And then classical Arabic, which was a similar language because it comes from Aramaic. It's similar to Sanskrit. It's a language of creation. It's a language of magic. The word abracadabra, which kind of universally across the planet is considered the mumbo jumbo pseudonym for false magic. But abracadabra literally means in Aramaic, the God or I myself who creates through speech. It's literally the word I am creating through the words I am intoning. The Sikh language of Gurumukhi is just such a language, but it's not about creating. It's the language of remembering. Everything in Gurumukhi is leading us back to, through sound frequency, leading us back to remembering who and what we really are. And that's the magic of Gurumukhi. I'm not saying it makes it better than Sanskrit or Farsi from the Persians or classical Arabic, um, the most devious language on the planet, but also perhaps the most powerful is English, because for at least half a millennia, and I would say it's probably three times that, that
This
language
is
has been
this is yeah.
engineered, systematically engineered for brainwashing, for programming. Sorry,
Yeah.
go ahead. What were you going to say?
Now, I was just going to emphasize again, language is a representational system.
Yes,
Is how we learn in school. A for apple. So
exactly.
once I say A and you see an apple, then your apple presented in your mind could be an apple black color or red color or with a stem, no leaf. So it's what is represented in our mind is what we are reacting to. And what you did yesterday was actually creating, we go back to our kindergarten to actually look at what is the bloody picture we have in our mind, because that's what we are reacting to.
Exactly. So the Buddhists say everything is a symbol of itself.
Yeah,
Now take that on, what that really means. Every word you speak is a symbol of a thing that you've seen. But that thing that you've seen is a symbol of its own internal frequency.
yeah,
There is an energetic form that exists before the thing. An apple seed has within it an apple tree, and that apple tree will exist unmanifest until the right conditions for the apple seed to begin to grow are present. And that means basically water. It needs water, and water is synonymous with time. Flowing water is like flowing time. When I said at the beginning of this, or mentioned yesterday, we are a field. We are a felt field. We're a past tense of feeling that was
mm,
created before, and we are in that. We are part of that.
yeah.
That is the we, the collective identity, the we. And we
And
as an
many
individual, yes,
and many a time we actually in our mind see the field outside ourselves, whereas we are the field.
exactly, exactly. And the thing
Number one.
is,
Yeah.
it's a
And
fractal nature. Yeah, go ahead.
number two, whatever is in our mind. So whenever you see, we are taking the responsibility back to what we are experiencing. We cannot, once we understand this, we cannot blame anything outside ourselves, but it is our own creation. That's where taking ownership back. So you are the creator.
Absolutely. And then understanding we are both the field and we are the river that runs through it.
Correct.
The me is the river, which is just
Amen.
me, is just we turned upside down.
True, true, true.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
it's time that turns the we into a me and then turns the me back into a we.
Yeah.
Everything comes from nothing, or the emptiness, the the infinite possibility of the field becomes a pointed, fixed possibility of manifestation as the river, the river of attention.
Yeah.
So
That's where the
it's
oneness comes in.
exactly. And so the one has two meanings. One means the unity, but also one means the unit. The all the individual tiny units that progressively make up larger and larger fractal expressions of the unit, eventually expanding or increasing in orders of magnitude until it's a unity that we, through our limited consciousness, can only describe as one.
Yeah.
So the important thing to remember, this is another Buddhist saying, it's the one who blames others has a long way to go on their journey.
Yes.
The one who blames themselves is halfway there. The one who gives up blame altogether and blames no one has arrived. The point is not to apportion blame. The point is to recognize the patterns, because the patterns are what bind us. They're what bind us within a skin, and they're what bind the two entities within a skin, which we can call a name, together. When we recognize these patterns, these sticky black molasses, which we can just call kala, the darkness, we can purge it. We can drag it out into the light and release it, let it go. This is the whole nature of Chardikala.
Yeah.
Chardikala is, in fact, in the Western world, embodied and expressed within the myth or the legend of Saint George and the dragon. Saint George was meant to arrive in a town besieged by a dragon, a demonic entity that was cold blooded like a lizard, but flew in the air. It had wings. And it looks like there is strong evidence that there were winged lizards, not just like pterodactyls, but literally winged lizards that had wings with feathers. So, or feathered like structure. It's like the webbed feet of an amphibian or webbed feet of some, not just lizards, but reptiles. So, this being represents some primitive structure within the human psyche that demands tribute. And what's it do? It demands tribute of sacrifice, of animal sacrifice, and wealth stored in material form. So its favorite two things, it wants gold, and eventually animal sacrifice isn't enough. It demands first the children, sacrifice of children, and then hones in on the female children because they're far superior than the male. They hold the possibility of future generations. And then they become so greedy that they will only accept gold, the most precious material on the planet from our perception, and the princesses, the daughters of the nobility. Right?
Mm.
This daughters of the nobility, the princesses, as in Sikhism, we've identified that all girls are princesses because all women possess the possibility of overcoming fear through faith, through the courage to believe in the possibility of what? The mind, the mind Man, literally in Sanskrit, means mind. So this fourth state of consciousness is believing that the mind can stop being the thing it's become, which is a control mechanism reacting to fear. But when the subconscious, which is completely based on fear in order to guarantee survival, can be convinced by the noble mind, the man in its best quality, which we think of as in legend form, the hero, when that third state of consciousness can enter the state of fourth realm of consciousness, the state of courage, the time of the heart. When the mind can say to the infinite possibility that the subconscious mind can blossom into, and it can say it with enough confidence that fearful princess can go to sleep and say, look, I, the subconscious that's trying to protect you from everything that could kill you, recognize that you could become so much more. I'm going to step back now to give you the opportunity to prove yourself. The princess is the inspiration for the hero to make the hero's journey. This body bride, the soul, has to step back and allow the mind to prove itself worthy of what it was designed for. Adam has to prove to Eve that he's worthy of being the leader. That's really what the whole story of the Garden of Eden is about. Lilith is a subconscious mind that's controlling, that wants to be on top while creating. It wants to be outside. It wants to be the container that circumscribes the outer triangle, circumscribing the inner triangle that's upward of the mind, of what Adam represents. And why Eve is pictured as a rib inside of Adam is because she's the inner voice. It's still the subconscious, but it's when the subconscious is transformed to filter out the things we as the mind recognize are limiting our possibility, and to stop listening to those voices and start opening ourselves through courage to the things that open the doors of uncertainty. It's opened the doors out of chronos, ordered time. This happened and this happened and this happened. So I trust the system. I believe I want to repeat yesterday because I'm not dead, because yesterday I didn't die. So I'm going to repeat the same thing again and again. Krios, this or Keros, excuse me, is this sacred time that all spirituality talks about. It's the liminal space or the ether between spaces. Between what spaces? Between chronos, order, and chaos. But chaos has got a bad rap. And that's why so many people today, uh, there's this offense of why is feminine chaos and order masculine? Because they're not recognizing order as a singular thing, where chaos is a duality. It it means complete disorder, but it also means infinite potential. And that's the
Yes.
beauty of the feminine. The beauty of the feminine is there isn't any order. Anything could happen. Anything could happen. Even a loud motorcycle driving by. Anything could happen.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of the feminine. But what's desired is, can we find a new order out of the chaos? Because we've recognized we've reached the limits of the old order. We've reached the boundaries by which we've defined ourselves.
And
And
by
they've realized, again, going into quantum physics a little bit, but I don't want to, I'm not trying to impress anybody with, oh, he knows something. No, it's just understanding they understood this before. And this is what magic is. It's understanding that the description of the soul is the description of the quantum field itself. And the soul matches these subatomic particles. If people are interested, we can go into that, later discussions. But the important part is understanding at the smallest level, there is nothing solid. There is no material reality. All
yeah,
subatomic particles are energy taking shape. And the most economical shape in the universe is a sphere. So everything reduces as soon as it can to a spherical shape. And it usually does that by assuming different circular shapes. And a sphere is a convergence of three different circles, which we can say, what's that mean? Three different fields meeting. When there's a convergence of three different fields, by their very nature, definition of what they generate three different currents through those three different fields. And in that process, you create a new, infinitely more powerful kind of field, because a circle is a shape. A circle holds a two-dimensional shape within it. But a three-dimensional circle, which is a sphere, is a spherical field that holds volume within it. And the difference between exponential growth, which is two-dimensional, and volumetric growth is astronomical. We're talking 2 to the ninth is 512. 3 to the ninth is 19,683. Do you hear the order of magnitude of power that's released when you start thinking, speaking, and behaving volumetrically? Volumetric growth is the most dangerous thing on the planet. Einstein, when he was asked what's the most powerful force on earth, he said compound interest, interest upon interest. And that is only exponential. What I'm hoping to share with you without getting too complex is within you is the possibility of compound interest on volumetric growth. There is enough energy inside of every single human being on this planet to run an entire city. That's how powerful we are. And it's not just a metaphor, it's a literal truth. But understanding that literal truth as a metaphor is perhaps the most powerful bridge we can make as human beings.
yep,
It simply means you don't have to destroy yourself through an atomic collision. You have to expand yourself through a collision between the past and the future. Not repetition, but collision. You have to take your future identity and make it so concrete and propel it at your past identity with such power that you annihilate that past identity. Because if you don't, that past identity will undermine you every time, because your new identity, your past identity perceives as an existential threat. And it should, because the two can exist at the same time. Your future identity, your I shall be, is your divinity. It is the God aspect of you. The possibility that you can say I shall be is the magi in you. And that magi is expressed through your intuition. That's where all your inspiration comes from. And then there are the three magi of Chronos. So the magi inside of you is the magical, the magician, the magic. It's the mother of the cosmos, of creation, that is absolutely comfortable with chaos. She is chaos itself, longing for her husband, Lord, which is the original order, the math o magic, to be born
And that
from her,
and
the
that's what you did
everything.
yesterday.
Yes,
That's what
exactly.
that's
Exactly.
what you did yesterday to say, okay, create create the future yourself. In, let's say, at the end of the year, your celebration will be celebrating the new story, the new yourself, not the old one. And it may come out,
Absolutely.
and it may come out of a chaos, but that chaos is the energy that you will use to actually
That you release to create your future. Thank
yes.
you so much. You said it
Yeah,
so beautifully.
yeah, that's what you do. And that's
Yeah.
what that's what the group is doing. That's
Yes,
what we're
yes,
doing.
absolutely. I
Yeah,
understand. That's why when Doljeet told me about the group in the beginning, that was my intuitive understanding that you as a group have been working this whole time towards
yeah,
that very process.
yeah. And
So,
if we
yeah,
are our creators, that means actually in that realm there is no time. So actually you can create the new yours, new self even now. It's already
yes,
existing.
in a blink of an eye.
Correct.
We are we are what they're beginning to understand is the field is has a rhythm to it, but it's blinking in and out at such a rate that we can barely perceive it. And we're
Yeah.
also understanding that light is functioning along that frequency. Light never moves. Maxwell Planck hinted at this. He suppressed a lot of what he did in order to support Einstein, because what Maxwell Planck was saying was so much more radical that I'm not even sure Einstein, I think Bohr understood it, but I don't think even Einstein really grasped what Planck was saying, which was light doesn't move. The excitement that light is moves from point to point in the grid, from pixel to pixel. But the pixels exist as a fixed grid work that consciousness flows through. And so
Yeah.
it's the excitement that is moving the same way the image on your television screen doesn't move. The pixels are fixed, but the light, the excitement in the pixels gives the illusion of movement. So both Bohr and certainly Maxwell Planck seem to have this understanding of a three-dimensional pixel, which is shaped like a tetrahedron. And if you understand that, it means everything, everything in the cosmos is a reflection of that holographic tetrahedral fractal pixelization. And that means then we can look at our own consciousness in the same way. And that's why resurrection is always 3 days. That's why the process I'm talking about is 3 days.
three
And then
days.
the,
Yeah.
yes, and that's
Mm.
because that's the field. 3 points define a circle. And
Yeah.
3 points in a flat plane can define one circle and only one. Only one circle can pass through any three arbitrary points. The fourth point is the point that we call the reference point. It's what determines your point of view. You're looking at the circle, you've drawn the circle, that's a field. Now it becomes a field, a spherical field of consciousness, a sphere of consciousness, when you recognize how you're looking at those 3 points.
It
And
reminds
that,
me.
yeah,
It reminds me of somebody's gravestone. He says, "I tried to change the whole world, and I couldn't do it until I realized when I change myself, I change everything."
yes, when you change the way you look at things, the things you
Correct.
look at change. It's all about a shift in perspective.
Correct.
100%. And that shift might be less than a centimeter.
Yeah.
It might be that small to perceive a completely different reality. So tomorrow there is an eclipse of the sun.
Yeah. Yeah.
Tomorrow,
20.
three again. This is there's the three inside. This is why this 4 day window from the 8th to the 12th is so important. We are trapped inside a 12 strand DNA vessel,
DNA. Yeah.
right? That is limited to a 12-dimensional perception.
Mm.
And what Guru is offering in that 13th step, because what in the Mo mantra, Ek Onkar Satnam Kartapurak Nirbo Nirbera Kalmurt Ajuni Sabang Guru Prasad Jap. What Nanak did is just count to 12. 12 is Japa. This is the shape of the universe, which most modern cosmologists agree. It's a 12 dimensional universe in the way we perceive it. It's like a dodecahedron, except the top and the bottom are open spaces so that things can flow through that. That design is how we describe the 12 petaled lotus of the heart, right? This is all ancient, really powerful astrological, astronomical, cosmology, cosmological, and quantum physics, all tied into one thing. So you've got the three things that are inside, and then you've got these three astronomical events happening, which are powerful as well for us to realize we're opening a gate. Have you put your affairs in order to walk through, to let go of your ephemeral self, to embrace your immortal self again? Basically, this is the story of the Gemini twins. It's the story of the Christ. We all sacrifice our immortality to have this human, limited, ephemeral experience. There comes a point to be born again, we have to sacrifice our ephemeral, limited, localized perception to welcome back the eternal, unlocalized, unlimited part of ourself, because we are both. The soul being completely limited the way a proton at the beginning of time has these three subatomic particles trapped within it. And we've never found any evidence of any of those being released. The soul is traveling through time in the same way, experiencing itself again and again in different forms. But the three aspects of itself, the three magi of mind, speech, body, of thought and deed, bridged by this common factor of the word, the logos.
Okay, it's 8:22 now, so maybe we can continue on
Okay,
tomorrow.
we
Yeah,
just flow up, and I tell you the thing to do, and thank you very much.
yeah.
Is that this moment we have, meteor shower, unusual event, 6 planets all aligning together
Mm.
in a straight line. And now we're going to close the door on that perception of the chakra system. From now on, we perceive it as what its true nature is, which is a circle. It's a toroid made up of toroids. It's a donut pulling itself through its own hole. It's an acorn. It's an apple seed. The nature of the chakra system is a thing that creates guru flowing through it. And I would ask you to spend tonight before you go to bed, put pen to paper. You can revise it tomorrow to look at every single limiting belief that you hold true. I'm not good enough. I'm not powerful enough. I'm not strong enough. I'm not rich enough. Anything, I'm not worthy. Think of Austin Powers if you know that film. I'm not worthy. I'm not worthy. Think of every belief that makes you think you're not worthy of becoming the God that you are. Write it down on a piece of paper. And tonight or tomorrow morning, I want you to take that paper and burn it. I want you to give yourself, the old identity, a cremation funeral. Let go of the past completely and embrace your true identity. And with that, I would like to bid you good night. And I'm sorry we ran so far over, but it seemed important.
It is. Yeah, we'll do that.
Bless